ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। Thus we saw how Lord Krishna has described the various aspects of our personality, dividing them into the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. The sattva has been described so that we can cultivate that. The rajas and tamas have been described so that we can give them up, we can let them go. So that is the renunciation that they talk about. Because the rajas and tamas have been observed, so they are those which in fact obstruct the manifestation of sattva, the manifestation of happiness, the manifestation of the fullness which is my nature is obstructed by nothing other than these rajas and tamas, the impurities and agitation in my own mind. And therefore, all that is required is to give them up or to drop them. And therefore the rajas and tamas are generally represented as raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion. And therefore a way of life in which there is constantly an attempt to give up the attachment and aversion would be life of renunciation. That doesn't mean a life of inactivity, life of not doing something, but doing whatever is required to be done such that every action becomes a means of giving up the raga and dvesha. And that sannyasa is called, that kind of renunciation is called karma yoga. And then the second level of renunciation would be to give up the cause of rajas and tamas, the ignorance. So first level is giving up the raga dveshas, the gross raga dveshas. The second level of giving up would be giving the cause of raga dvesha, which is ignorance, and that is by pursuit of knowledge. Thus we find in Bhagavad Gītā these two lifestyles described. Lokesmin vividhanistha pura prokta mayanagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. In the third chapter itself, even earlier in the second chapter also, Lord Krishna mentioned these two lifestyles. Both lifestyle of renunciation. But the first stage is a lifestyle of activity, pravrutti. Second is the lifestyle of nivrutti, engagement and disengagement. Engagement with the spirit of renunciation, where every action becomes a means of giving up the existing raga dveshas or attachment and aversion, and then disengagement, the contemplative life of what you may call as renunciate, and that is for the pursuit of knowledge, so that the cause of raga dvesha is given up. And that is a complete freedom. So first level of freedom is the freedom from raga dvesha. The second level of freedom is, or ultimate freedom is, the freedom from ignorance. And so this discussion of the division of the whole samsara into these threefold ways of sattva, rajas, tamas is now concluded by Lord Krishna in the 40th verse, verse 40. न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं सत्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः तदस्ति सत्वम. There is no existent thing. Prithvivyam va, either on the earth, divi deveshu, or in heaven among the gods. There is no existing thing either on the earth or in the heavens among the gods. Yet prakritijehi trivihi gunaihi muktam syat. That would be free from these three gunas born of Prakriti. Lord Krishna says the entire creation, consisting of the sentient and insentient beings, anywhere, either on the earth or in the heavens or in the nether worlds or any world that can be. So wherever any being is there, understand Arjuna that it is made up of these three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. Because a question may arise in our mind that Lord Krishna has described these various categories as falling in the divisions of sattva, rajas, tamas, but maybe there is something else that doesn't fall in this category. To remove that doubt, Lord Krishna says there is nothing whatever in the whole universe, anywhere, which can be free from these three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. In short, whatever is created is necessarily created by the combination of these three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. The Sankhyas described in the process of creation that before the creation, there is the balance of sattva, rajas and tamas. These three gunas are in balance. Imagine like the billiard table on which number of balls are there, all of them are stacked in balance. At that time there is no movement. All you need to do is just give a slight push in one place and all the balls start rolling. Similarly also, these three gunas are in a state of balance before the creation, in a state that we call the pralaya or dissolution. And in the beginning of creation, a slight disturbance comes into being, and then we have what we call the imbalance of these three gunas. So for the process of creation of movement to take place, there must be imbalance of the sattva, rajas, tamas. When they are in balance, there is no movement, no creation. Imbalance, the creation process begins. And therefore it is said that the creation requires an imbalance of sattva, rajas and tamas. And therefore, whatever is created is necessarily created from the combination of these three, sattva, rajas and tamas. And that is how Lord Krishna has described, in fact, the entire samsara. The samsara is described by Shankaracharya ji as kriya, karaka, phala. These three words are used, and you will find this often happening, So let me just write it down for you. Samsara here means the whole universe, whatever is created, and typically it is described as consisting of these three. Kriya means action. Karakas means accessories. And phala means the result. See, Lord Krishna described, if you look at the chart which we gave you in the morning, Lord Krishna described various things. One of the things that he described was karma. And other things that Lord Krishna described were the karta That is a doer. Then also describe the intellect. Describe the knowledge. Intellect. And the fortitude. So, these are all the accessories required for performing the action. Right. And then finally, the phala is described. This fortitude is said to be dhruti. Intelligence is buddhi. Knowledge is jnana. And the result, the happiness. Meaning sukham. So, see how the things take place. First of all, knowledge takes place in my mind. I come to perceive something, I come to know something, and I know it as something desirable or undesirable. So whenever I know the objects of the world, then I know them either as desirable or undesirable. If they are neither desirable, non-desirable, I'm indifferent to them. But when something is known to be desirable or undesirable, then I react to it. If it is desirable, I want to acquire it. Undesirable, I want to get rid of it. So from the knowledge, then this desire will arise. And my mind, my intellect then would decide what it is that it wants to do. Pravrutti, nivrutti. What kind of an action should we perform to accomplish that end, the intellect would decide. And my dhruti, my fortitude, will hold on to that particular end. And with that, I perform karma or the action. As a result of action comes the phala, the happiness or unhappiness. So, when this happiness or unhappiness comes, happiness is desirable, unhappiness undesirable, again my mind will react. If it is happiness, I want more of it, I want to hold on to it. Unhappiness, I don't want it. So again a desire arises. With happiness, desire to acquire or hold on to it. Unhappiness, desire to get rid of it. From then again, karma will arise. From again, the phala will arise. Again, desire will arise. Karma and phala. You can see how the whole cycle goes on. So this is how the whole cycle goes on of karma, karma phala and desire. So knowledge gives rise to desire, that gives rise to action, and that gives rise to the result. Or experience. And so this knowledge also can be called experience. Because the experience of the result is judged again as happy or unhappy, desirable, undesirable. You come back here. Like in this computer loop, So then immediately it comes back here, then starts again. Desire, action, result. Come back here, desire, result. Desire, action, result. This is the life. This is how one goes on and on until that somehow the desire gets satisfied. And that will happen. When will this happen? When one becomes free from desire. When will that happen? When the knowledge happens that there is nothing desirable, nothing undesirable. Everything is fine. Everything is perfect. Everything is Brahman. That I am Brahman and therefore nothing desirable, undesirable. Everything is perfect. When that knowledge takes place, then there is no desire, because there is no need to change perfect, or there is no need to change the completeness. So desire always expresses a need to change. When I find myself incomplete, there is a need to change. When the knowledge takes place that I am the complete being, there is no need to change. And so
between desire and action, I think there should be buddhi, is it intellectual?
yeah. Now you see, what happens is, this action requires different accessories. They call in Sanskrit karaka. We can translate them as accessories. See, for an action to take place, first thing that is required is the one to perform the action. If you are familiar with Sanskrit, then you know how the different cases come into operation. So first thing that we require to perform action is karta. That is the doer. This is the first case. Right? Ramaha, Ramo, Ramaha. That's there is a nominative case. And then comes Ramam, Ramo, etc. So, karta, you require the doer. For me to do something, I require an object upon which I do something. For example, take the action of eating, simple action. The eater is required, the food is required for me to eat, and so that food which is the object of action is called karma. This karma is different from that karma, you know. That karma is action is different from this karma, this is object. That's the second case, that's what we require. Well, the eater also is there, the food also is there. We require instrument, my fingers or my hand with which I take the food and put it in my mouth and then masticate it. So that is called the instrument. The third case, instrumental case. That is called karanam. That's the third case. At least these three are required. You require other things also. Usually when I eat the food, I offer it to someone. Offer it to my stomach to appease the hunger. Always the purpose of performing an action. So that's the fourth case. Or when you are performing a homa or yaga, so in the fire we invoke the devatas and we make the offering. So the offering is made keeping some devata, some deity in mind. Devata is called sampradana, to whom this is offered. So when something is offered, when I am offering the food, also I am offering to my stomach or myself, for appeasing the hunger. There is a purpose of doing it. Fourth case. And of course there is always a movement. When you perform an action, some movement is always involved. Food can be eaten when it moves from the plate into my mouth, that movement. So from one place to the other. So from somewhere, the movement takes place. That is the fifth case, that's called apadana. And all the action must take place, in a location. I must be sitting someplace, the plate must be there. That's called adhikaranam, the location, you see. They are not so important. The first three are most important, of course, for us. So that's why Lord Krishna said, Jnanam, karma cha karta cha. No. No. Jnanam, jnayam, parijnata, tridha. So jnanam, jnayam, parijnata, trividha, karma chodana. So these three are involved for impelling any action. Jnanam, Jnayam, Parikñāta. The knowledge, the knower, and the object of knowledge. That's the reason why Lord Krishna has described all these important accessories which are required for performance of an action. So, the knowledge also becomes one of the accessories of performing an action. The doer also is an accessory. The object, instrument, all these accessories are required for performing an action. These also Lord Krishna described. And there is a result, which is called Sukham, happiness. But really speaking, the happiness born of Rajas and Tamas are as good as unhappiness. Happiness born of Sattva is a real happiness. So let's say the result of happiness or unhappiness also is described. And that's how the whole samsara is described. Because the whole universe is what? Whole universe is what we call the phala, karma phala. That's what it is. Because in order for me to gain an experience, let us say I perform an action and I have to gain an experience of happiness. Let's say I have to enjoy music, I have to watch dance, or I have to eat ice cream, let us say. Something like that. Or I have to have a cup of tea. Suppose an experience. In order for God to help me gain that experience, you know what will be required? You know what a cup of tea calls for? A cup of tea requires what? The other day I was invited for giving a lecture someplace, and before the lecture there was a social whatever, and so they served tea. I had gone there a few minutes earlier. I was talking to people, and I asked this question: hey, where does the tea come from? Swami, it comes from the tea kettle, from there. Oh, where did it come from in the tea kettle? Oh, it's from the kitchen. What happened? You in the kitchen? You have some kind of a tank or machine which gives tea. No, Swami, tea is prepared in the kitchen. How do you make tea? You don't know this? Just water, and that were milk and some sugar and some spices. In Gujarat they always add spices also. And then tea, and then let this thing boil and set it down. That is tea. Oh, but then you require milk. You require sugar, you require tea leaves, you require water, and require the fire to boil all of this. Where did you get the milk from? Oh, from milk carton, milk pouch. You get milk in pouches in India. Where do these pouches come from? Sky or something? No, Swami, they come from the store. Where did the store fellow get it from? From the dairy. What dairy has some kind of where does the dairy get from? Swami, they get from the cows. Where does the cow get the milk from? What is it, Swamiji? The cows eat the grass. Where does the grass come from? Yeah, the grass has to grow in the ground. How does it grow? You require some seeds, and you require the water, and you require the sunlight, and you require the air and everything else. Oh, so then for the grass to grow, you require sun. And the sun has to be active, the sun must evaporate that water from the reservoirs and convert into clouds, and the rain has to come. For that, moon also is required, wind also is required, earth is required. For one cup of tea, how many things you require? If you add up all this. This is for milk, then for sugar, for tea leaves. And you will see where the tea is grown, in those tea gardens. Of course, all this process requires human beings, and a lot of other infrastructure is required for all these things to come from one place to the other. If you add up what all is required for just one cup of tea, and how about that? How about the fire? Oh, Swami, there is this, it comes from the gas bottle. Where does the gas bottle come from? From the refinery. How does it come there from? From the petroleum. Where does the petroleum come from? From the ground. How does it go into the ground? Swamiji, you see, millions of years ago, when the forests, and these forests were all compressed, and that's how they all got converted to carbon. And they were there for millions of years and got converted into petroleum. I said, hey, somebody seems to have planned all this. I guess millions of years ago somebody knew that this afternoon at 4 o'clock we are going to require a cup of tea, and therefore they planned everything. So that the petroleum was available, and then it was extracted, they went to the refinery, and then refining took place, and from that this cooking gas was bottled and was sent here. And imagine all the infrastructure required, all the natural elements required. You find that just for one experience of having a cup of tea to take place, you require the whole universe. Therefore, if God wants to fulfill one desire of me, what desire? Have a cup of tea on a given afternoon at 4 o'clock. What will it require to create? The whole universe. And then you want a cup of tea, and they want a cup of tea, and then I want some chapati, and somebody wants idlis. Add up all of this, and you will have the whole universe just to enable us to gain the experiences required in order to require the result of performance of actions. Because every action must result into a reaction. And reaction is the form of the karma phala, result of action, which has a happiness or unhappiness. And so, for gaining these experiences, we require the whole universe. Now add up the needs of all the living beings. Understand, human being is not the only inhabitant of this world. There are millions of other kinds of creatures. Each of them has their own need. Understand? We have some kind of needs. A mosquito has its own need, I guess. An ant has yet another need. All different creatures have different needs. And somebody to plan out how to fulfill all their needs. At what stage of life, who is going to require what? Before their birth and during the birth and after the birth and so forth. And if you add up all of this, you have this whole universe. And therefore, universe is said to be karma phala, or the result of action. And then the universe is in front of me. And because I have rajas in my mind, I am attracted to the objects, so I want to enjoy them. Again, a desire is created. If there is tamas in my mind, I have an aversion, I have something else, that also creates a desire. Sattva in my mind, that also creates a desire. The sattva, rajas and tamas, all of them create desires. Rajas creates a desire to enjoy. Tamas creates a desire to get rid of it. Sattva creates a desire to know it. A person having sattvic mind, when he sees something, this curiosity arises. Hey, where does it come from? What is it made of? That's how all the scientists with sattvic mind, when they look at the world and the various phenomena, there arises a curiosity in their mind. What makes this possible? What's the cause of it? And they investigate, and that's the pursuit of knowledge. And therefore, whenever I react to the world, either I react it with a desire for pleasure, I react it either to harm it, I react it with a desire to help it, or I react it with a desire to know it. When desire comes, action comes. Action comes, result comes. Result comes, the experience comes. Experience comes, again, my response comes. Either to know, or to enjoy, or to get it. Again a desire, that's how the whole cycle goes on. And therefore, the whole universe is said to be included or covered by these three. What is it? The karaka, the kriya. Kriya means action. Karaka the accessory, and phala, kriya karaka, phala lakshana, samsara. This samsara is that which consists of these three things: kriya, karaka, and phala. The action, accessories, and result. Understand that the doer is a part of accessory. The doer also is included in the accessory. The knowledge also is included in accessories. The dhruti, the resolve also included all in accessories. They are all included there. So kriya, karaka, phala lakshana, samsara. Therefore, when Lord Krishna described all the 6 different things, in fact, he has described the whole samsara. And what is the whole samsara? It is made up of these 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. And as long as we are in the realm of these 3 gunas, so long the cycle of birth and death will continue. Let a cycle of cause and effect will continue. And we say that when a person performs an action, he is accountable for the result of the action. Therefore, I must experience the result sometime or the other. If that result does not come in this lifetime, well, I have to take another birth to experience the result. So karma action is like a seed, and its karma phala is the fruit. So you see, different seeds produce fruits at different times, There are certain seeds which produce fruit in 6 months. There are some seeds which produce fruits in 2 years. A papaya seed may produce fruit maybe in 2 years. A mango seed may take 12 years to produce fruit. And thus, depending upon the kind of seed, when the fruit will come is determined by the nature of the seed. And karma or action is like a seed. And therefore, depending upon the kind of action that I perform, when will the fruit come? When will the result come? That depends upon the action that I perform. This Smriti Granthas describe this. Sometimes they say, if you do such and such thing, you will experience result after 7 births. If you do this and this thing, the result will come in next birth, whatever it is. Whether to believe that or not is a different matter. The point is that when we do something, the result will come. And that I must be around to experience that result. If I am not around, sometimes what happens is, action that we perform, the result cannot be experienced in this body. This body is only competent to enable us to get some experiences. But then, some of the actions are so bizarre and so exotic or whatever, that this body is not capable of producing, helping me to experience the result. I may require a different kind of body. That's how the cycle of birth and death. The samsara, samsara is transmigration. This transmigration, the movement from one embodiment to the other embodiment continues. So as long as we are in the realm of the 3 gunas, so long one cannot get away from samsara. If you remember the discussion that we had some time ago, we said that the I or the ego is made up of these 2 principles or 2 entities. The Purusha, which we call person, or the self, and there is Prakriti. Which is what we call the personality. Or the non-self. Sometimes they call this person the spirit or the consciousness, and this Prakriti the matter. It is a matter that is made up of these 3 gunas. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. What about the Purusha? What is he made up of? This Purusha, the self, what is he made up of? He is made of the 3 gunas? No. He is the one who transcends the 3 gunas. So sometimes I use the word transcendental, Or let us say that one who is free from the 3 gunas. And for that Lord Krishna once used the word Nistraigunya. This is Traigunya, in the realm of 3 gunas. Nistraigunya, one is above the 3 gunas. In the 2nd chapter, Lord Krishna said, Traigunya Vishayavedaha Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Here Arjuna, the whole samsara is in the realm of the 3 gunas, and may you grow out of the 3 gunas. May you identify yourself with that which is above the 3 gunas. As long as you identify the 3 gunas, you identify the personality, you identify the whole universe, and so long you cannot get away from this limited life of birth and death. We don't have any objection to birth and death, really. It's not that moksha means freedom from birth and death. Moksha, liberation, means freedom from limitation. But as long as I am having an embodiment, or as long as I have the identification embodiment, then I am limited. Because the embodiment is limited, personality is limited in time, place and condition. Therefore, the sense of limitation that one experiences, limitation in time, limitation in place, limitation in all the qualities, attributes, that is what is called bondage. And therefore, moksha or freedom means freedom from the sense of limitation. It is not that the personality limits me. It is not that the body really makes me immortal. It's not body, mind or sense complex that limits me. It is identification with that which limits me. So body is not a problem, but I am the body, that becomes the problem. Mind is not the problem, but I am the mind, that becomes the problem. And so what happens is that whenever birth takes place, there is automatically an identification also with the embodiment and therefore a sense of limitation. And that is what is called the samsara. And therefore, to become free from samsara, what is necessary is to de-identify from the personality or de-identify from the three gunas, or to recognize myself as the one who is different from the three gunas, beyond the three gunas, untouched by the three gunas, unaffected by the three gunas. Like Lord Shiva, even though remaining in everything that is inauspicious, everything that is impure, Lord Shiva is ever pure. Otherwise, he is only surrounded by impurity, is it not so? You know where Lord Shiva lives? He lives in cremation ground. Most impure thing. I mean, by the Vedic tradition, some people might think cremation ground is something very sacred, I don't know, but at least in India, cremation ground is something that is inauspicious. And he has on his body, he smears on his body the ashes from the funeral fire. Highly inauspicious. You don't, if you even look at it, I think you have to take bath, let alone if you touch it, Some people. So, and then he is surrounded by all the ghosts, again inauspicious. On his body there are the snakes, inauspicious. In his neck there is this poison, inauspicious. All impurities, he is surrounded by the impurities. And still, he himself is what? Embodiment of purity. Shiva means auspiciousness or embodiment of purity. What does it mean? That he is a purity that is unaffected by or untouched by the impurity. He is what? The embodiment of detachment, unattachment. He is unaffected. He is untainted. So, that is how Lord Shiva is the embodiment of unattachment, being untainted, remaining pure in the midst of impurity. So our personality also is like that. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. This Tamas is like that poison in the neck. The Rajas is all the snakes and stuff like that. And so, this is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. The Lord Shiva also has some other nice things too. He has also Ganges flowing from his head. That is Sattvic. So Sattva is also there, Rajas also is there, Tamas also is there. He is the substratum of all of it. And himself totally free from the influence of them all. Similarly also this Purusha, the person, the self, he is the very substratum, is the very locus of all the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. But it himself ever remains pure, ever remains free. And therefore, this is a process of shifting the identification from the Prakriti to Purusha, from the personality to the person. Shifting the identification. Except that shifting is a process. And therefore, that is shifting is called renunciation. Renouncing the identification of personality and establishing the identification of person. That's what we have to do. That's the reason why Lord Krishna teaches renunciation in Bhagavad Gītā. What is the renunciation? Giving up the identification with the Prakriti, with the personality, with the three gunas. However, that identification also is given up in stages. As I said, the identification with Tamas is given up by identifying with Rajas. The identification with Rajas is given up by identifying with the Sattva. And identification with Sattva also has to go by identification with the Self or the Purusha. And that final step takes place by knowledge. The first steps take place by karma and worship. When we say karma, we mean the performance of action in the spirit of worship. So by karma or the worship, the first two stages take place. And final stage of de-identification of sattva also takes place by knowledge. So Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna, may you become the one who is free from the identification with the three gunas. This is what Lord Krishna wants to teach us. And this is what is in the extensions. The 18th chapter is summary of the whole Gītā. The samsara is described in great detail. So when Lord Krishna described the knowledge and then the action and then the doer and then knowledge and the buddhi, the intellect and fortitude and sukham, happiness, in fact, he gave us a detailed description of the whole samsara. So that we can become free from the identification with samsara. And in the 15th chapter also, Lord Krishna described this. See, we chant the 15th chapter. Urdhu Moolam, Adashakam, Ashwatham, Prahuhu, Avyayam. So there in the 15th chapter, as well as in the Upanishads also, this whole samsara made of three gunas is compared to a tree. People tree. It's compared to the tree. Urdhu Moolam, this is the tree of samsara, which is its root above. Adashakam, which are the branches below. Root above means the original cause, which is Brahman or God, is above. That means transcendental, untouched. And these branches are downward, meaning this whole creation comes from the subtle to the gross, from one to the many, and product of ignorance. Asanga shastrena drudhena chitva, the Lord Krishna also showed how to become free from this entanglement of samsara. Because Aswatham Prahu Avyayam, this tree of samsara is described as imperishable. Which means that if we do not do something about it, this process will go on. It will not end by itself. You know the banyan tree. Although Ashwatha means people tree, but banyan tree also is a very good example of how the banyan tree, its existence perpetuates. Because the secondary roots come and they go into the ground, and then again the shoots come, and another tree that becomes a stem, another tree grows, and that's how the banyan tree is that whose existence perpetuates. And that's how the samsara is. If you don't do something about it, it will perpetuate. So Lord Krishna said, Asanga shastrena drudhena chitva. You cut asunder by the weapon of asanga. Asanga means what? Detachment, or vairagya, dispassion. Therefore, may you cultivate vairagya or dispassion for these three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. Tatah padam tat parimargatavyam yasmin gataha nanivartanti bhuyah. Tatah padam tat parimargatavyam, then one should seek that pada, that abode, that goal. Yasmin gataha nanivartanti bhuyah. Having gone where they do not return. How do you do that? Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye yatah pravrittihi prasruta purani. Tameva adyam purusham prapadye. I seek refuge of that Purusha, which is a very locus or substratum for the creation of the universe made up of three gunas. And therefore, this is called detachment, shifting the focus from the three gunas to the person who is beyond the three gunas. And so, this is devotion also. Shifting the devotion from the three gunas to the devotion to the person. It's called the self or the God. And that's how Lord Krishna said, this is a method. That may you develop a detachment from this by analyzing how being entangled in these three gunas, that you will ever be flowing in the current of this the life of birth and death, and which is a life of limitation and suffering. And therefore, may you take the refuge of this person, the consciousness, the self, from which is the cause. So from the effect, go to the cause. From the tree, go to the root. And the root is Brahman. How do we go? By dispelling ignorance, by the pursuit of knowledge. And that pursuit of knowledge, as I said, can take place in two stages. First stage is Karma Yoga, second stage is Jnana Yoga. And so, that is what also Lord Krishna now wants to describe. So therefore the tree of samsara is described. Now Lord Krishna proceeds to describe a process by which we can slowly and slowly extricate ourselves from the tree of samsara. And for that, the way is performance of one's duty. This is the Karma Yoga, performance of one's duty. And that's what now Lord Krishna is going to describe. It is called Swadharma. One's duty. So living a life of performing duty is a life of karma yoga. See, in the Vedic times, since, as we'll discuss now, since the society was classified in what we call the four castes, a very sensitive and touchy issue coming up now, and so, since the society was divided into four castes, and the Veda scriptures prescribe what is the duty of a member of each caste. The whole society was organized around what we call the caste, Varnashrama. Varnashrama. This word is made up of two words, Varna. Varna can be translated as a caste. And ashrama is the stage of life. And so every member knew what caste he belonged to, and of course what stage of life he belonged to. The caste, as you know, are famous. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and the fourth is Shudra. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. These are the four castes. Quite well known. And the whole society was divided. This was a division of labor. Division of labor. Because naturally for the society to function, different kinds of functions have to be performed. And ideally, a given function should be performed by the one who is most suited to perform that function. One who possesses the right kind of disposition. And one who has the right kind of an aptitude and ability. Just as we appoint different people to perform different tasks in any organization, and similarly also, if the whole society can be looked upon as an organization, then the four kinds of functions were identified which are required to run any organization or any system, and therefore four kinds of people also were identified: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. When I am discussing, I have no intention of promoting caste system, etc. This is merely the discussion which is based on the scripture, so that you understand where they come from. Because, of course, there is a lot of not only criticism and condemnation also of the caste system, but then it is necessary for us to understand where it comes from. What is the spirit behind this whole caste system? What's the purpose of it also? So, as we understand, then I guess we'll have a better appreciation of where it came from. And then there is ashrama. Ashrama is the stage of life, which I also said before. Although the reference of these castes have come earlier in the 4th chapter, just briefly mentioned. And the idea of duty has been described has been stated in many places. But in the whole Bhagavad Gītā so far, Lord Krishna has not clearly stated what are those castes and what are those duties. It has not been stated. And therefore, now the occasion has come here to state that clearly so that people understand what their duties are. Because the duty, as we said, is really the concept which is for my growth. So performance of action in the spirit of duty. It is a spirit of duty which is the means of self-growth. That is how the Vedas recognize. How to help this person grow in his inner maturity, grow in the inner strength. How does he become free successively from reactions? How does he become free from these raga and dvesha, attachment and aversions, or from inner impulses? So how to live a life so that progressively we become free from the hold of this inner impulses or reactions. And for that, the concept of duty, a very unique concept, which you particularly find in the Vedas, a very beautiful concept of duty. Duty means an action that is performed in the spirit of offering, the spirit from a sense of gratitude, and from an understanding that I must return the favor. And so that's called duty. And everybody should know what the duties are. And therefore, the Vedas also specify, the scriptures specified by Vedas, we mean Vedas also, and then there is a Smriti. Veda is the Shruti, the Smriti. Smriti are the Granthas, the texts which are composed by the sages. The Vedas are the revealed texts. And the Smritis are the texts that are composed. Because what is said in the Vedas, in order to apply it in our day-to-day life, we require somebody to interpret those statements of the Vedas or instruction of Vedas. Somebody should interpret for us so that we know how to apply it in our day-to-day life. And so these rishis or sages, in fact, elaborately wrote. So the spirit of the Veda is then described so that we can interpret that in our situations and follow it. So Shruti and Smriti, all of these things basically talk about one thing, and that is duty. And that is why Lord Krishna now wants to talk about duty. Although the idea of duty has come earlier. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Here Arjuna, we will perform the action that is enjoined for you. What is that action? Now the Lord Krishna finds an occasion to tell us what those actions are, what those duties are, with reference to the different castes. And the stages of life, there also, the brahmacharya, and grihastha, what's the third one? Vanaprastha, and the fourth is sannyasa. It has to go up there, we ran out of space, so I should go up anyway. So, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. Stha means to stay. So grihastha, one who lives in gruha or home is called grihastha. Gruhe tishtati. So one who lives in the home is called grihastha. Vanaprastha, vana means forest. So one who lives in the forest called forest dweller. This is called a householder. Vanaprastha is called forest dweller. And sannyasi is called the renunciate, or is called a wandering monk or renunciate. And brahmachari is called a student. So the student, householder, forest dweller, and renunciate, these were the four stages of life, identified as the four stages of life. They are always there. It's not that they were. The four castes are always there, and the four stages of life always there. Except that the Vedas identified them and used them to organize the whole society, to help the person determine what is his place and what he should do. These four stages of life are roughly divided into four equal segments of life. If the lifespan is looked upon as 100 years, then Tentatively you say that first 25 years the study, second 25 years the householder, third 25 years the forest dweller, and the fourth 25 years is the renunciation. But it doesn't have to be years in terms of years. It is hoped that as a person goes along in life, he grows in maturity. So really these four are the stages of maturity. It is hoped that in 25 years a person gets proper education so that he becomes fit to enter life of a householder. It's not that just because you're 25 that you are fit to become a householder. It's not so. People take for granted he's 22, Swami, we should get him married. But have you ever checked up whether the fellow is mature enough, It's a big thing. To get married is not a small thing at all. People just plunge into that and they recognize and they find out what it means. But then, if there is a maturity, then the growth starts. Every ashram becomes a blessing if the person is prepared for that. And so Vanaprastha is also retirement. Retirement also requires a lot of maturity. And then renunciation also requires maturity. So, these are the four stages of maturity, or four ashrama, the four stages of life. So that's how the life was thus divided into varna and ashrama. For a person to know what it is that I should do in a given situation, what is my duty in a given situation. So I can perform the duty, and that would be like a spiritual life. Just life of performance of duty becomes spiritual life. And everything in India is only based on duty. That means the Vedas look upon the life of a human being as primarily a spiritual life. Along with that, you can enjoy your pleasures and comfort also, but dharma, artha, kama. Artha and kama, the comfort and pleasure, but they are preceded of what? Dharma. So therefore, the duties. And by following dharma, whatever artha kama you get, enjoy it. So that is how life was looked upon as a life of as a spiritual life meant for the growth of the person. And that's how Lord Krishna in the following section now is going to talk about the duties of these four castes. We'll take it up in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo